friends ever since.
It's recorded all that, by the way. It's recorded all that, Stevie.
Good.
So talk about your synths.
No. I am down here in Rainham in Kent, which for those of you not familiar with British geography is in the southeast of England, not too far from London. But I'm here driving my friend's band Slime City, who are on tour. It's just a mini tour because there's only a couple of dates, but because we've had to drive such a long way, it still definitely counts as a tour as far as I'm concerned. We drove down from Scotland yesterday. We drove all the way down from Glasgow to London, which took 9 hours, which was a bit longer than I would have liked or expected, but we had a few snags on the way. First of all, there were some crashes on the motorway. There were some problems with the electronics of the hire car. For some reason it decided to call the emergency services, and then it was, you know, the parking sensors weren't working, to top off the fact that this tour's already been rescheduled a couple of times, and COVID and the fact petrol costs huge amounts of money at the moment. But it's nice to be back out on the road. The particular tour venue that we're at just now is the Oast Community Centre, which you can see there in the back. And the cool thing about this actually is that when you tour about, people often think it's a very glamorous lifestyle, you know, that there's, you know, big tour buses and lots of people and lots of drinking and all that kind of thing, and that's actually not always the case. In here you can see the life of a driver, which is alcohol-free beers to make me feel like I'm having a good time even if I'm not. Places like this are actually the kind of place that, you know, underpin the whole music industry, because here it isn't people that, you know, are making loads of money or anything like that. It's simply people that are interested in putting on gigs because they're passionate about music. Whenever I've gone on these tours, it's been really cool and actually quite humbling to see how many people are so passionate about music that they're willing to give up all their time and money and, you know, resources in order to put on gigs for travelling bands. So these people are the unsung heroes of the entire music industry, so it's nice to see that it's still happening even post-COVID. Now I do have to say that I'm pretty fucking knackered at this point, even though it's only day 2, and whilst we have had like hotels to stay in, which isn't normal for a tour, I have to say, at least not tours that I've been going on. I'm a bit concerned because I have my own tour with my own band Closet Organ in a few weeks. We're going around England and Wales and a wee bit of Scotland, so if you're in the area you should come and see us, say hello, buy a ticket to see us, so that we don't feel like we've completely wasted our lives and we can try scrape back some of the money that we've lost. But I think part of the reason it's so tiring at this point is just because, you know, when you only have 2 days on a tour, you can never really get into that nice groove in the middle where you feel a bit numb. It's kind of just the extremities of getting down where you have to go and then getting ready to leave. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself, because if that's not the case, then it's because I'm really old now and I'm definitely not going to survive this tour in a few weeks. Now, I had planned to do a whole kind of documentary video where I was showing you us packing up and everything and leaving from Glasgow, but unfortunately, in addition to all of the problems with the car, we also had a few other errors, such as Michael Drum, who plays drums unsurprisingly. He snapped a snare drum skin, or like burst it, last night at the gig in London, and I also managed to leave my GoPro camera on top of the car, and when we drove down the motorway it flung off into the distance. So if you're travelling down the M6 and you find a GoPro, give me a message, because I'd like to have it back, but unfortunately that means I've lost all of the footage, so this is kind of a less interesting video than it might have been otherwise. The first venue was a place called Paper Dress Vintage in Hackney in London. You can see that it's a vintage kind of clothing shop, which at night turns into a gig venue with a kind of stage and stuff upstairs. Fuck off. That is Michael Guitar slagging me off for losing my GoPro. This is his pedal board, which includes some pedals that he built himself. I was inspired to try it out after the tour and fucked up. This is Soundcheck, the most exciting time of any band's day. Nice wee poster here, and of course, my own beautiful face killing time. As you can probably tell, the gig went fairly well and was pretty busy, which was nice to see, especially after a couple of years of COVID-related problems. But the next day we had to head through to Kent, and we stopped off in a town called Maidstone, Kent, where we saw some weird and wonderful things, including somebody in a red latex suit climbing on this dinosaur and shouting obscenities at us. But we did also have some time to check out the local culture, including this old vintage shop, which had a lot of weird and wonderful things, including actually a nice selection of records. Gong, never heard of them, but also this one, which I think Labrat Warfare would be interested in. I don't really know why they had balaclavas, but yeah, I guess the less said about that, the better.
Is this an exclusive for your YouTube?
We also took the chance to stop off at a world-famous TV studio where they film Jules Holland. Where are we?
We are at the Maidstone Studios where they shoot Jules Holland, later with Jules and the Hooter fucking Nanny.
Finders Keepers.
Finders Keepers.
Are you a big fan of Jules?
Yep.
There's an angry man coming. Since we had a bit more time than usual, since Maidstone, Kent was not too far from the actual venue we were playing at, we actually were able to sit down and have quite a nice civilised lunch in a cafe like normal people, which doesn't happen too often when you're on tour. I got this delightful raspberry chocolate brownie, and look at that iced latte. When we finally got to Rainham, where the next gig was, we even managed to see a train crossing over the road and live out our fantasies of being Francis Bourgeois, the famous train spotter.
Oh, it's coming! Oh, take my butt! Oh, it's the 13209 from Clapham. I don't know.
Are you a big train spotter?
Oh, here it comes!
Whoa! You fucking whoa! Oh, fuck. There you go. How exciting is that?
How often do you get to see the
The support band for the gig in Rainham were these nice boys called Punching Swans. If you like At the Drive-In or similar bands to that, then this might be right up your street. I ended up buying a vinyl because I liked them so much, so they are worth going to check out if you haven't already. With the second gig done, it was almost time to head back to Scotland, and we thought it would be a good idea to drive up the road a wee bit after the gig. However, as with all great plans, everything kind of hit a bit of a hiccup when we ran into some more crashes on the motorway, and so the next day was even longer and more tiring than expected. However, nothing quite beats crossing the border when you get there. There's a variety of fauna increasing as we come to Scotland. Look at the pylons, they're already better.
Better pylons in Scotland, you don't get a pylon like that in England.
The road is smoother.
Do you know any songs about pylons?
No.
We can see
I think I've started too early.